now tuned in to the Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips@CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Good morning, good folks. How is everyone? A little bit of a late start this morning. My apologies. I woke up with a massive headache today. So I had to take a little bit of I think that was an Advil or something. Liquid gel. They say they work quicker, right? Technology, it's amazing that we can do these things. I think it's a sinus headache because it's kind of like all in the front. But then again, sometimes I feel it in the back. Anyway, how are you guys doing this morning? The show must go on, and that's how life is. So I'm so thankful. Good morning to all of you. Where are my peeps this morning? Where is everybody? Am I the only one who's getting a late start here? Or maybe I'm not the only one who's getting a late start. Everybody's like, we're dragging our feet. It's almost the weekend. Can we get the weekend already? So I'm sitting down today, as you guys can see. So a lot of mornings I stand and then some mornings I sit. And this morning is definitely going to be a sitting morning because I'm like, this headache is massive. So we'll give the Advil a little bit of time to kick in. And of course, today is Tech Thursday, which means that we have got some information for you. Good morning, Lizette. Thank you for joining in. So I'm just going to pull up some of our tech information that we wanted to discuss. So of course there was a power outage yesterday. Power outages are always a real pain. And there's a couple things that I want to talk about in terms of technology, but we'll get to those in a little bit. Carol, good morning. She says that she gets headache with bad weather and we have this tropical wave heading to us. Carol, I don't think it's close enough yet for us to really be feeling anything from it, but I totally get what you're saying. For me, I think it's, I've been having them the last week or so. So I think it can be a couple different things. Sinuses, definitely, because I can feel the sinus pressure on today. And I've got my Vicks handy. And I might have to like slather my face with Vicks because I feel like that just extracts and opens up your nasal passages. So it could be that. I am watching very closely because, as you guys know, a lot of time is spent on computers these days, and we're all on the PC. And you guys know I have really dry eyes. And so a couple weeks ago, I went to the eye doctor, and they said, actually, you could do with glasses. You're like, definitely would clear things up. But it's one of those things where when my eyes are not dry and irritated, I think I function just fine. And so the ophthalmologist said, once you start wearing them, you are going to become dependent on them. And you will, like right now, you don't necessarily need them all the time. But once you start wearing them, you will need them all the time. So she's like, I'll give you the prescription for it, but think closely about whether or not you actually want to go down that route. And I wore glasses before. So I'm a previous LASIK surgery kind of person. And man, I wish I could repeat that procedure because the 20 years that I've gotten out of that have been amazing to not have to be bothered with glasses. I'm one of those people who's actually allergic to metals. And so I can't wear like fake jewelry or anything like that. I break out. And so even the metals that a lot of stylish sunglasses are made out of, they would literally make the sides of me right here go bald. And anywhere that they touched me, so if it touched like my face or, on my nose or anything, it would literally just like irritate my skin. And so you either have to find plastic glasses, which oftentimes back then, especially, were a little bit more challenging to find. So good morning, Cassidy. Thank you so much for joining. Yes, I've got my tall glass of water right here, and I'm definitely trying to drink as much of that as possible. Karen, good morning to you. Yeah, I think hydration too is really, really important. And I do know I don't feel like I drink enough water ever. So I try to, especially in the mornings, I try to start off my morning with at least a glass of water. So Marcia, how are you, my dear? Thank you so much. Yes, I think that it will dissipate shortly. Like I said, I've taken a little bit of Advil, so hopefully that kicks in soon. You know, one of the interesting things, hi, Sophia. Sophia says to drink lemon water. And then Cassie says to be careful of citrus and dairy products. Yeah, I try to cut out as much dairy as I can. I think I had a piece of cheese yesterday, but most days I could do without dairy. I'm not a huge milk drinker. Like I only have milk in my house really for my daughter. And once in a while, but milk is something that I don't ever feel the need to drink. I don't know, that sounds weird, right? But I hardly ever feel like, oh, I need a cup of milk. I just don't have the taste for it. But I'll tell you what happened to me after I had my daughter. And this is kind of interesting. I don't know if any of you women have experienced this or not, but I had a C-section. And after I had Gianna, about a week later, I had this massive headache that lasted for 8 weeks. And of course, I was like, what on earth is this now? And you go in, you get your blood pressure checked. And my pressure was a little bit elevated, but nothing that should have been causing this headache. And so I got put on a low dosage of blood pressure medication just, to kind of keep that under control. But the headache persisted and then it disappeared. And then about 2 years later, a year and a half later, it came back again. And it's like a headache that will last for days. I'm like, okay, this is really concerning because the first thing you think, is there something in your brain? What's going on? So I had gone to Dr. Sydney about it, and Dr. Sydney Banks said, listen, just out of an abundance of caution, have an MRI done, and then go see a neurologist. Like, I think you should see a neurologist. So I thought, okay. And I went and saw a neurologist. They did a MRI. They said, nope, everything's fine. But the neurologist said, after I gave him sort of a description of the timing of when the first onset of it happened and what else is going on, he said, actually, it sounds like you have occipital neuralgia. And I was like, what the heck is that? And apparently there are nerves that run up the back of the neck and into the spine. And that's the occipital nerve. And what can happen is that nerve can become pinched. And what we think did it, because again, looking at what had happened, you ladies know that after you have a baby, one of the big things, especially if you had a spinal tap, is that you have to be very, very concerned about, what do they call it? Like these spinal headaches. And apparently if you get one, it is the worst headache in the world. And so when you go in, the anesthesiologist has this discussion with you about the possibility of getting that headache and what you should do if you get it. So one of the recommendations that they make actually is that you drink a caffeinated beverage. You either have a cup of soda, like a Pepsi or whatever, as one of the first things that you're going to have after you're coming out of the C-section, or a cup of coffee or something like that, right? Because I guess they've realized that caffeine has some properties in it that will keep this type of headache at bay. But because I didn't have it, the headache comes right after the injection wears off. So almost immediately as you're coming out of delivery, really, within the first 24 hours, you'll know if you have this headache. And so the doctor said to me, that's not what this is, because it was like a week later that it came on. And what we think we discovered was the cause of it is, I had the C-section. At the time, I lived in my apartment and the bedrooms were upstairs. So instead of having to try to maneuver upstairs after C-section, which is really, really challenging, for the first, at least the first week or so, I actually slept on the sofa. And it wasn't the most comfortable place to sleep, but it also didn't really feel all that bad. I could sit and I could just snooze on the sofa, had my pillows. And we think that really what happened by sleeping on the sofa is the position that I would have been sleeping in. I probably pinched that or put undue pressure on that occipital nerve. And that is why I got that massive headache that lasted literally for the first 8 weeks after I had the baby. So it was like the first week I was fine. And then after that, it was like every single day I would wake up with a headache, and it's more located like kind of in the back of the neck. And then the other reason why they really pinpointed, it's so important that when you have any sort of ailment and you go to the doctor that you try to, and it's hard sometimes, to try to remember like what the pain feels like, if there's anything that impacts it. And one of the things I noticed, and I didn't notice it the first time, but then when we got around to the second time, is if I massage the area, because I had, my doctors give me different pain meds and they didn't really impact it at all. But I found that massaging the area and just putting pressure on that area actually gave me a lot of relief. And so that was kind of the aha moment for the neurologist. And he's like, that's exactly what the occipital nerve will do. Like you put pressure on it and you can relieve the headache. So he said, listen, you may have this sort of flare up every once in a while. And there are people who have it chronically. And those persons who have it chronically actually have to get an injection into the nerve. So like literally in the back of the neck. And I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't sound very pleasant. So he said to me, they'll keep the injection on hand because there's a certain injection that they use for it. And then, if I get it again and I need it, the instructions will be there. Because I think he's a visiting specialist. He has an office in the Strand, but I don't think he's here all the time. And he said, yeah, we'll keep it on hand because the nurses can administer it. And I'm thinking, wow, okay. So I try not to deal with, I'm not a person who will pop a pill very easily. I'm certainly not going to take that injection all that easily. Like I'd have to be in a lot of pain to even do that. But yeah, I try to do things more like massage therapy. Sue is mentioning Dr. Glass is an ENT. I did go see another ENT on island, and I have discovered that there are things that I can do. So sometimes like a warm compress will help relieve a sinus headache and other things. I try other kind of non-invasive things first beforehand. And I do know that, I could definitely do with irrigating my sinuses, but I'm such a squirmy person when it comes to like the sinus cavity that I find that very, very challenging. So good morning to Sue. Good morning, Olivia, Irvelin. Marcia says, I get tested for glasses and they're metal frames and they mess up my face. So I have to get plastic frames. I totally understand. So yeah, I tell you what that is, Marcia. We actually have a reaction to the alloy that is in metals. I discovered this a long time ago when I was in college and I got my first pair of glasses. It was really, really bad. And then certain things make it worse. So like if you sweat and that, mixes with the alloys and the metals. So that's why you can't wear costume jewelry. It's the alloy content that's in that actual metal that will irritate the skin. And some people have a reaction to it and other people simply don't. So I learned a long time ago. I'm not a big jewelry wearer, but I have a few nice pieces. I've got to make sure that they're at least like either platinum gold, white gold. I think I can wear some silver things. It just kind of depends again on the alloy content. And then 14 karat gold and above is fine. So yeah, it means that I have to spend money if I want to buy jewelry. So I have a few pieces, and that's fine. I think stainless silver, 100% silver, is okay because obviously I wear like watches and stuff, and I don't have an issue. So Alice, thank you. Louis, thank you for tuning in. Evelyn is saying it could be seasonal allergies. You can't get rid of those. Meds only help for a minute. Pollens have a lot to do with it. Yes, and I never used to suffer from any sort of allergies until I was like in my 30s. And then I had like a major allergy, like seasonal allergy kind of attack where I just couldn't stop. Like my sinuses were just running and I was sneezing, and so these things can develop as we age and stuff as well. So amazing, right? And I have a very sensitive skin, so sometimes I have to be very careful the things that I put on my skin. Like one time I sprayed on suntan lotion. It was like the spray on one, and oh my gosh, I broke out in this unbelievable rash, like all over my legs, everywhere that the suntan lotion touched me, I had a reaction. And about 2 years ago, I had some sort of skin reaction as well, and we couldn't figure out what triggered it. So sometimes just like soaps I use for my clothing. I do use the baby soap, the baby detergent to wash my clothes because I determined that I can't really take a lot of harsh chemicals and stuff. So I do have to be very, very careful sometimes, even how I'm washing my clothing and stuff. So yeah. And I feel sorry for people who have massive, because I don't think I have a huge allergy problem, but there's some people who are allergic to like everything. So Marcia, yes, can relate to that situation. Good morning, Joy. Good morning, Morna. So listen, the big news this morning, of course, is that we have our first 2 positive cases of COVID-19 since July. What day in July was that? But it's been 37 days. So we almost made it to 40 days. And unfortunately, this is the exact point that we were having a discussion about yesterday when we were talking about the wearing of masks. And that is that we cannot think that this virus has disappeared from the Cayman Islands simply because we've been fortunate enough not to have any recent positive cases. So first of all, I'm of the opinion that we have people here who were probably positive, but what is going on is that we are not testing them because there's no need to test them if they're asymptomatic, and they probably don't work in certain professions. So yeah, it's not as widespread. So now we've been downgraded by the, I think it's PAHO that had given us or CDC or whoever had given us that status of no cases to now sporadic. Thankfully, these 2 were imported in. And as far as I know, those persons should be in isolation. So there's speculation. There was talk yesterday that one person was a work permit holder and one person is a Caymanian returning. It doesn't really matter because we have in place the protocols to allow work permit holders to come in if their employers are in a position to pay for the quarantining facility. And obviously for Caymanians, government is still paying for it. Now, it was a bit of a shocker, I mean, despite that, but it shouldn't really be all that surprising because we are still bringing people in from relatively high-risk places. The UK is not low risk, right? Miami, if we have people coming back on these repatriation flights out of Miami, that's not low risk. So am I surprised by this? Of course not. We were having the discussion yesterday about New Zealand going 102 days, and boom, now they have 70 cases, just about a cluster of this outbreak. And Unfortunately, this is where, we always have to be on our guard. Now, the only question that I have, to be quite frank and honest with you, is who else could have potentially been exposed by those two individuals? So someone was saying to me yesterday, Sandy, why are we not pre-testing people before we come to Cayman? And I'm going to say it again because I think a lot of people are not understanding how this situation works. But pre-testing gives you a false sense of security because once someone has a test done, that PCR test can only tell you if they have enough antibodies present in their system at the time of the test in order to get a positive result, right? Now, keep in mind that in the United States of America, the average test result is taking 2 weeks. So it's only if you are perhaps ultra rich, and I'm talking about Kardashian rich, where you can have this process expedited. Listen, the labs in the US are really a hot mess at the moment because there are labs who are woefully behind, labs whose systems have broken down, their computers, and then they're now just reporting data from like a month ago, 3 weeks ago. So there's a lot of things going on with the labs in the US. The other real concern that we saw the Bahamas struggling with is apparently there are Americans who will lie, shocker, about their test results. And they were actually falsifying their test results. They were getting, I guess, I don't know how they were doing it, a fake lab to give them test results that said they were negative when they were not negative. So I think regardless of how you slice this, at the end of the day, the only way to really kind of know the credentials of anyone who is being tested is for you to actually do the test and conduct the test yourself. So that being the case, I don't know if I trust these people coming in with any test results. I would still be like, maybe not so much. And so 2 positive cases, folks. What about, someone was asking me, and I'm going to try to dig into this a little bit more to maybe have a response by tomorrow morning. What about the Cayman Airways staff, right? So even when they're doing these repatriation flights, you might have a bare bones staff, but you need staff nonetheless. So they're not serving you any drinks or anything when you come out of Miami now. It's just like, sit down for the hour and 15 minutes, relax yourself. Stewardess is trying to keep their distance from everyone, but you're still on a plane, right? And there's still that potential that they may have touched something that this infected person touched. How long did they have the virus for? We don't know. Where did they pick it up? We don't know. Did they pick it up in the airport? Because remember now, persons are tested at the end of their stay because they're trying to, the health professionals are trying to give the virus enough time to accumulate where the infected persons are shedding enough to actually get an accurate test result. So that being the case, we don't know where these persons picked it up, where they got it from, were they active enough, which we have seen this is possible, at the earlier stages, and they have enough of the virus shedding going on to potentially infect other people. Of course, the planes are taking every possible precaution. They are, making people wear masks. They're sanitizing people before they get on the plane. They're doing as most as they reasonably can. However, there's still that possibility that Cayman Airways employees, the pilots, and even other travelers on those flights would have been impacted by this virus. We don't know. They didn't, the authorities won't specify what flight they came in on or any of that information because, as we've seen in the past, they've said, no, that's too confidential. And so, we will have to wait and see. Will they do any contact tracing out of that? So I'm really hopeful that tomorrow being Friday, We've not had a press conference in over 4 weeks, and in large part, perhaps that has been because there were no positive cases and not a whole lot going on to discuss. However, here we are with school starting, so I think we need to hear from the Minister of Education. Here we are with 2 new cases, the first time in 37 days. So I think it's past time now for a press conference to happen. Don't you guys agree? So let's see what the government is doing, if they're paying attention. I actually heard through the grapevine that the premier may have complained to the police commissioner that I sent him messages or said stuff about him that he finds offensive. So our thin-skinned premier is complaining to the police about what we say about him on this platform. What a bunch of you-know-what. Sue says Nasonex. I can check that out. I don't like spraying stuff up my nose, but I think I might have to get used to it. Hi, Maria. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. And Maria makes the point that, listen, coronavirus isn't going anywhere. We're going to have to live with this for a very long time. And I absolutely agree. I think it becomes a question of how we're going to live with it and exactly, how this is going to work. So listen, Trinidad has had to shut back down. I've got a girlfriend in Trinidad. She sent me some information this week. And she actually informed me, this is what she sent me by email. Let me just find her email real quick. So she actually said on Monday that Trinidad has pushed back the opening of schools until December the 31st. Can you imagine? Wow. Poor Trinidad. In-house dining and consumption at bars has been stopped. Churches, gyms, and cinemas are closed once again. And she says people need to be responsible. Oh my. Not good. It's horrible to have to revert back to all of that. It really is horrible. You get a taste of freedom. You get a taste of being able to eat out at restaurants. And this is why I'm saying, listen, I don't care what anybody says. Reopening our borders is going to be very detrimental to us. I get the economic impact of not doing so, and that those of you who work in tourism will feel the pressure of that. But I also know that the pressure of reopening your borders and getting a large number of infections here and then having to shut back down is something that we cannot afford in more ways than one. We can't afford the sick toll, the infrastructure pressures on, the HSA. We only have so many beds. We can't afford the potential death toll and the implications of all of that. And, these are the realities that we need to consider. So if 30% of our GDP comes from tourism, and listen, I'm not sneezing at 30%. I get that that's a huge number. It's not 60% like the Bahamas. So we don't rely on tourism as much as some other jurisdictions. But yes, tourism is a big part of our economic infrastructure, and everyone gets that. But look at this. Look at how amazing locals have been eating out at restaurants. There's some restaurants that I go to and they're packed because people are eating out. So the local population is keeping the economy afloat. All those ancillary businesses, restaurants and bars, and even some tour operators are getting a lot of local business right now. And so, I think that we need to remember Cayman Brac. Every single flight to Cayman Brac, I understand, has been full. So much so that they have actually put on additional flights to the Brac. So people are patronizing local businesses. The economy is churning along. Of course, there will be an impact, a fallout from COVID. But in my opinion, the impact and the fallout will not be anywhere as severe as it would be if we get active infections in this country all over again, and we have to start shutting down everything, and we go back to ground zero. That's my greatest fear. So in Trinidad, they have 57 new cases recorded on, let me see here, on yesterday. This was reported some 10 hours ago. So unfortunately for them, 57 new cases in a day. So they have 534 active cases. And the Ministry of Health in their country has said that 25 new infections were with patients being processed for admission at the time, so being admitted to the hospital. So unfortunately, Trinidad is in a bit of a pickle. And like I said, they have shut back down a lot of things there. Jamaica, likewise, continues. I saw someone posting on one of her things about Jamaica has been a success story. I don't know where they're reading this or where they're getting their information from, but Jamaica has not been a success story, folks. Jamaica continues to struggle with this, but unlike Cayman, it's not quite as easy for a country of 3 million people to shut down their borders. And I do understand that. I do get that Jamaica actually relies on way more of their GDP comes from the tourism sector than Cayman even. And so, yes, they rely heavily on it. And so it's not surprising now that they've recorded 46 new cases in Jamaica in the last 24 hours. So now they're up to 1,192 cases, being the total number of confirmed positives. So that's not good. So of the 46 new cases in Jamaica, they have, and again, that's in the last 24 hours for them, they have 22 males, 24 females, ranging in age from 4 years old all the way up to 76. And they've got Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Thomas, Clarendon, Portland, St. James, St. Catherine, St. Mary, St. Anne, Westmoreland, Trelawney, and Manchester. So I think that covers a good portion of Jamaica, right? That's like all over the place. The other concerning thing about Jamaica is the National Public Health Laboratory, or as Caribbean people like to say, laboratory. You guys know I'm very American with my accent, laboratory. They have said that there's a backlog, get this, of cases. So they're trying to clear off that backlog. They have over 1,300 tests that they need to try to get done, that were done today. And apparently there are 19 pauses came from the backlog. So imagine what that means, folks. If you've got a backlog of cases, I don't know how long this backlog is. I think they said, oh yes, from the period of July the 5th through the 18th. That was a month ago. So you have people who went in to get tested in Jamaica, who submitted all of the PCR kit to be tested, right? Did the nasal swab and everything. And I'm pretty sure they've not been stuck in quarantine for a month. I am sure they have been mingling, and they have been walking around, and they have been going to funerals, and they have been doing the most. And all of this is happening, and these people are positive and do not even know that they are positive. What are you saying to me? Yes. And as a result of that, they are going around infecting other people and do not have a clue that they are infecting other people. So listen, people, the truth of the matter is they are out there as vectors of this disease, because I'm thinking that most of them are largely asymptomatic. They're not taking the necessary precautions. Maybe they even assumed, and this would be fair, that because no one has contacted them, that they actually do not have the virus. They're not positive. And so they're out there living their best lives. And unfortunately, the lab is backlogged. And so they are positive and nobody's the wiser. So, scary thought beyond, let me assure you. This is what's going on, folks. This is why, again, a lot of people said, oh, I've got a husband in Jamaica, a spouse in Jamaica. They want to come back. How do we get them here? Well, pump the brakes. Bringing them in is extremely detrimental to us remaining COVID free, especially as someone pointed out, how is this whole bio button thing going to really work? Because the bio button, remember what the proposal was when people were coming in? You were going to test them at day 5, allow them to come and self-quarantine at their own homes, test them at day 5 or whatever. Then you allow them to go self-quarantine, I think is how it was proposed. And then, you eventually test them again if they were here that long, whatever. Listen, I'm not buying it. I'm really not buying it. It wasn't going to work all that well for us. We had hopes. Tech Thursday, we have high hopes that technology was going to be what was going to make the difference for Cayman. And I think it's becoming more and more obvious that it's probably not going to make that much of a difference. So we just need to hang tight, folks, and just continue to be careful. Good morning, Patty. Thank you so much for tuning in. She wants to know if it's safe to send her kids to school. Listen, I remain firm in our position that we are as safe as we can be. I think we're one of the best places in the world right now. So nothing is 100%. But what I would say, folks, is continue to practice the things that we know that have been part of our success story that have gotten us here. Social distancing, sanitizing yourself, your home, surfaces, everything, and wearing of the mask as much as you possibly can. Now, there's this big debate going on about Evelyn says she doesn't think borders will open until January. I don't think they should open until January, to be honest. Thank you so much, Dawn, for the birthday wishes. I did have a good birthday, very, very blessed and fortunate. But yes, it is concerning. Sandy, the other islands are pre-testing before flying in being done. It has been successful. Maria, I don't think that that's been successful at all. Their numbers continue to increase and they're having to shut down. The Bahamas was doing the same thing. Pre-test before you come. And like I said, Americans have been falsifying the tests. They can go to any lab, I guess, almost, and pay somebody to give them a fake negative. And so I'm not of the opinion that pre-testing is successful at all. And I don't see any country that has engaged in pre-testing that can actually say that it is working, that their numbers are not increasing and they're not importing the virus. They are. So I'm not sure, Maria, where that information comes from. But monitoring someone for 5 days when we know the incubation period for this virus, as we've said time and time again, is a minimum of 14 days. That is why the World Health Organization, the Pan American Health Organization, they all settled on this 14-day period as an acceptable time to quarantine, because that will capture the vast majority of them. But they know that the incubation can go up to 17 days. There's some people who will not shed enough of this virus to get a positive test result up to day 17. So that being the case, do not have a false sense of security about 5 days. It's nowhere near enough. It's ridiculous, actually. And yes, you can monitor people, but we know how humans are. They're going to say, oh yeah, I'm going to self-quarantine in my mansion. Then they got people coming in cleaning the mansion. So helpers are being exposed to them. They're going to hire private chefs and bring people in to do their cooking. Those people are being exposed to them. So even if they don't go out of their homes and they have the wherewithal or the space, accommodations and so on, to be able to quarantine at home That doesn't mean that they're not coming in contact with anyone, right? How are they getting groceries? How are they getting food? Someone is interacting with them. And so that's how the chain of this works. That's how clusters and outbreaks happen, like what is happening in New Zealand right now, where they don't even know. They have no clue what's going on and how this came about. So, listen to what the experts are saying about why this virus is so hard to contain. So, Tech Thursday includes medical technology because, folks, we are in a world surrounded by scientists and technology that is supposed to be beneficial to us, and we are supposed to be able to rely on this information. We know the difficulties sometimes that science and technology can play, and no one is saying that these things are 100%. However, we also know that science is our best fight right now against finding a longer term solution for how we will manage and deal with this virus. So, European countries are experiencing a jump. Listen to this. 3 European countries now see the biggest jump in cases since lockdown. Who are we talking about here? France, Germany, and Spain, the big 3 in Europe, as far as I'm concerned. All reported spikes since lockdown. This pandemic is on the verge of killing 1 million people already. So we know it has killed over 787,000 people. Now they're talking about people who are silent spreaders. What do we mean by this? Those are your asymptomatic people. They're not going to show any symptoms of this at all. So let me just show you guys a video here to try to understand what it is that we're talking about, because I don't think that we all get it. Like sometimes I feel like we're having this discussion and we are not fully understanding the implications of how this virus works. There's still a lot of misinformation out there. And so part of my job here, not just on Tech Thursday, but any day of the week, is to try to keep the information legit and to properly inform you guys of where the pitfalls are. We see what's happening around the world, folks, and we can learn from the mistakes of other people. We can be a success story, but we got to pay attention. We can't think that we are going to be the exception to everything that's going on out there. We're going to be the exception to the rule. We will be the ones who can reopen our borders because of a little bit of technology, a buy a button, and feel safe in doing so. Phased reopening is nothing new. We didn't discover it, we didn't invent it, and we're not the first to implement it. Everybody out there practically had a phased reopening. And in phase 1, it all failed. So let's have a look at this video. I want you guys to see this because I think that you will find this incredibly useful and interesting. So just give me 1 second. I want this to come up full screen. All right, here we go, folks. Stand by. Oh, I think we accidentally had a little bit of an issue there with the audio. My apologies. Let me just reverse that video because I think this is a good video for all of us to watch who are thinking about the implications of our kids returning to school and exactly what that means. I wasn't intending to play the second one, but trust me, this second one is just as good as the first one in terms of the information that it's providing. So give me 1 second. Let me just reestablish the connection and then we can continue the discussion because the safe reopening of schools at the moment is something that is in the minds of every single parent in this community. So the first video we just heard that basically there's research that's showing that children are super spreaders, that they are not just vectors for this disease, but they have the ability to have 1,000 times the viral load of some adults and show no symptoms at all. And they're out there spreading it to teachers, school administrators, other students. And, students don't live in isolation. We saw that one dad talking about how he was trying to isolate himself and his son from their high risk daughter in one single household. And whilst that might, in theory, seem like an easy thing to do, it is by no means easy for a lot of us who don't have basements that you can send a child down to, or you can live in yourself and you can have a separate living area, kitchen, whatever. It's just not that easy. So what are some of the implications? What are people around the world thinking in terms of, sending kids back to that traditional classroom environment? We know in the US, for example, there has been this ongoing dialogue about the fact that, the president has said schools must reopen. If they do not reopen, he's going to cut federal funding, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the flip side of that, there are school administrators who are refusing to teach children. They're like, no way. Over 400 of them have already applied in the state of New York to become exempted from returning to teach because they're high risk. They have hypertension, they have diabetes, they are obese, because apparently that is a risk factor as well in terms of how the coronavirus will devastate your body. Even healthy people are fearful. So let's watch this next video. I'm going to bring it back up again. Sorry for the audio issues, folks. Let me just reconnect it. And I want you guys to, again, just pay very close attention to what other parents are saying in the US about how they're going to handle the reopening of schools. Okay, so here we go. 1 second.
Not a matter of if schools should reopen. It's simply a matter of how.
So what we want to do is we want to get our schools open. We want to get them open quickly, beautifully in the fall.
There is a disconnect between those in charge making the decisions and then, those of us with kids who are living in the real world.
How are we going to ensure that, there's equity as much as can be across where kids learn?
You have teachers who want to teach, but they realize that without us, without our voice being heard, our health is not going to be considered.
I think most of us just want to hear the plan.
Because of the coronavirus, doors to public schools have been closed since March. So why don't we have a clear nationwide plan to return America's 50 million students and 3.3 million teachers this fall?
If you said to us in 5 years, there's going to be a pandemic, and you're going to have to figure out how to teach kids from home and teach kids in pods and keep people safe, and you gave us 5 years, it would still be nearly impossible. We would still need money and resources. But you've given us 5 months,
With over 13,000 school districts and no one-size-fits-all solution, individual reopening plans are being developed locally across the country.
Everyone was sort of hoping that by the fall, things would be back to semi-normal. Kids would go to school, adults could go to work, and we could sort of muddle through. Everyone's waiting to see which way those tests are going, which way those numbers are going. We just don't know enough information, and unfortunately, we're going to have to act.
The challenges to safely reopening schools are vast. Superintendents from 62 cities warned Congress that without proper federal aid, their districts could be forced to lay off as many as 275,000 teachers to make up for 15 to 25% cuts in overall revenue going into the upcoming school year. For those going back to in-person learning, some of the CDC recommended guidelines, such as social distancing, are nearly impossible to achieve in current classroom setups.
The 6 feet is out the door. There's no way to socially distance at 6 feet. The 3 feet is going to be difficult, especially at the elementary level.
It will be very clear that in order for your kid to come to school at a certain age, they will have to be wearing a mask. Every precaution is going to be made around high-touch areas, light switches, playground equipment, that kind of thing.
In addition to student safety, safety for teachers and staff is also a concern. About 20% of teachers said they aren't likely to return to teaching if schools reopen in the fall, and 65% said they want school buildings to remain closed to slow the spread of the virus.
Economy is recoverable. Education is recoverable. A lot of things you can recover from. What you can't recover from is debt.
Depending on your situation, if you are an older teacher, if you have pre-existing conditions, diabetes, heart conditions, etc., that make you more susceptible, we just clearly don't know enough about this disease to make perfect decisions. We don't know if kids are super spreaders. We don't know if it's the young kids or the older kids who do it more.
The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that while it must be done safely for students, teachers, and staff, the goal is to have students physically present in school because in-person learning is so important to children's social development. Parents are left with a question: what's riskier for kids, the virus or missing out on in-person education?
It just seems like there's a disconnect between, yes, education is our priority and we want to educate our kids, but where do you draw the line between going forward with education in a school as opposed to keeping the kids safe? And I don't feel at this point that there's any way that they can ensure their safety.
Our biggest concern is how they're going to handle the cases when they actually occur, because I don't really see how they're going to be able to keep them out of the school system.
Remote learning presents a different set of challenges. For many students with limited resources at home, remote learning puts them at greater risk of falling behind.
I think most educators are concerned that COVID-19 is going to further exacerbate the achievement gap that we see in this country.
For some children, they're going to start their first day of school at a homeless shelter. And our districts, reaching out and trying to find support for them. For some kids, it's going to be in a 1-bedroom apartment where you don't have that quiet space to go and learn, in a way that you need to.
Some issues we've known even before COVID-19. Right? We know that schools are a source for childcare. We know that they're a source for food. We know that they are sometimes the only place that people get internet.
In America, 1 in 6 children live in a food insecure household, and over half of elementary and secondary school students depend on the National School Lunch Program. Over 9 million children don't have access to broadband internet. And for many people, daycare during working hours isn't affordable. 70% of working parents will likely need childcare programs to go back to work.
You have to fulfill health, safety, and relationships before you can do any kind of learning or self-actualization. So that's the bottom line, and that's what we all have to really be focused on this fall. But really also, how do I keep my job? Which is very important at a time like this. We need parents to keep their jobs and not have more people losing jobs and suffering the financial consequences of that. So again, every stakeholder has valid fears, valid concerns, and there's not a right answer here.
Wow. Listen, give me 1 second here, folks. There are a lot of serious implications in terms of, how we deal with just the reopening of schools. Those are just some of the considerations. And those same problems, which are obviously in a much larger scale in the US that the US is dealing with, we have here as well. There are kids who their safe place, unfortunately, the only real safe place they have because of dysfunctional households, because of abuse in the households, those safe places are schools. And when you have a pandemic that, the schools are shut down, those kids are not getting the meals that they need, they're not getting the safe place that they need, they're not getting that break where they can get out of the craziness that is their own family and their own households. It has a significant toll on the well-being and the safety of our children as well as parents. Yes, there are parents who need to get back to work. We had a parent saying this yesterday. I need to be able to put my child in daycare so that I can get a job and I can work and I can support my family. So it's a catch-22 situation. People are not going to be able to do those things. Not everyone is fortunate to have a 2-parent household. Not everyone is fortunate to have a grandparent in the home that can be instrumental in helping them take care of their child. So schools are their babysitter and they need the schools open. So, for us, our compromise right now is how do we safely reopen our schools and manage that risk? By and large, something to consider is the vast majority of our students would have had no need to have been tested at this point in time. Now, if the potential exists, and again, we're still learning about this virus, but it seems like there is good data to support the reasonable conclusion that children are super spreaders of this disease. And if that is the case, folks, and they have not been tested in this country, you could see very, very easily how the very exercise of us reopening could lead to issues and a cluster of outbreaks that will now begin within our schools. That is why, if I were the education minister, not only would every teacher be tested, but every child going into the government school system, which is 5 years and up, should be tested as well. Because you're going to be able to isolate and catch those cases before they cause an outbreak. Because then it's clean up. Then it's shutting down, cleaning up, going backwards, all the way to ground zero if we need to. And what's the point of that? There is an element of prevention here. So whilst pre-testing doesn't help when you're bringing people into your country, in my opinion, all that much, it does help when you have a contained population where no one has really gone anywhere. These kids have only been, some of them to Cayman Brac, some to East End, and that's about it. Some have not been out of their backyards. So because of that, I really do encourage parents to also encourage their legislators to pre-test kids. This makes sense to me. Our school system is not that big where we couldn't do it. If we're going to test all of the teachers, let's test all of the kids as well. And then I think on that basis alone, if parents were open to that, there could be this softening up of the mask situation, which a lot of parents are saying, oh, my kids are not going to wear masks. So there's going to be this contention now. And then, as a matter of fact, yesterday, the Minister of Education, Juliana O'Connor-Connolly, apparently, let me just pull this up to tell you exactly what she said yesterday. So just letting you guys know some breaking information here. There is an accident on Wilty Drive that is going to be causing some traffic delays. So of course, you guys know here on CMR, we always get this, this information as it's happening. So just give me one quick second so I can post this up for the benefit of our viewers who may not be tuned in to this, but may actually be still monitoring our Facebook page. So we like to put up accident alerts because, listen, if you're out and about at the end of the day and and you're thinking about jumping in your car and heading out, you should know that there is an active accident in the eastern districts that will impact your commute into town. So I am just going to post this quickly for everyone to just be aware. Okay, so thank you so much for our very alert viewers who send us this information in real time as it's happening. We always appreciate it. Thank you. Because that's how we know what's going on. Everybody always says, how do you are you like in a million places at once? No, I'm not. And thankfully, I don't have to be, because you guys are just that wonderful. As something happens, believe me, we know. There's a transformer that blew last night in West Bay, just as an aside. And literally the second it happened, we had the alert that, what was that bang? What was that noise? And we're like, we don't know. But eventually we found out that it was a transformer. And thankfully, CUC was able to get that sorted out as quickly as possible. So if you're in the area of Wilty Drive, expect some delays. The police are in the area directing traffic. So if you're going into work this morning or you're heading into town, please be aware of that accident, which is just being reported in real time. All right, so now that's on our Facebook page and Instagram, folks. Good job. Thank you guys again for alerting us to that situation. So going back to this discussion, I've just posted the link. I know some of you were requesting it for that article. The article is actually about the jumping in Europe of France, Germany, and Spain. But the videos in that, the ABC News videos, cover kids trying to return to school and how America is dealing with that situation presently. So we have 22.4 million people, over 22.4 million people around the world who've now been diagnosed with COVID-19. And of course, this information continues to climb. John Hopkins University, they're kind of the, there's a lot of people keeping track of this, but they're like the official ones that everyone is relying on. Center for Systems Science and Engineering there at Johns Hopkins University. And here's the key thing, and I've said this before, and I keep saying it because I know sometimes these things don't always sink in, but the actual numbers are believed to be much higher due to testing shortages, unreported cases, and suspicions that some national governments are hiding or downplaying the scope of their outbreaks. And we have discussed that before. We know, for example, countries like China are probably lying about the scope of the outbreaks. Countries like Russia are probably lying about the scope of the outbreaks. And there are others, including in Latin America and South America, and maybe even in the Caribbean. They're not being 100% honest. And as we can see in Jamaica, if they're backlogged by a month with test results, God only knows how many people actually do have this in Jamaica. So when they tell you, 1,000 and whatever confirmed cases, think of that as a minimum, okay? Because 27 of the new cases in Jamaica are from that period that was over a month ago, from July the 5th through the 18th. 16 of the new 46 cases in Jamaica were also imported. 15 of those from the United States of America. Folks, this is why we keep our borders closed. And one from India via the US. So they still went through the US. What can we say about the US? They were a hotspot. So I'm not surprised that 15 out of 16 cases, really 16 out of 16, because one person is technically from India, but they traveled through the US, that they all have been tested positive in this last batch for Jamaica. So worldwide, over 22.4 million. Again, that's a minimum number. the US has been the worst affected country with over 5.5 million and rising by the day. And now Europe is reporting an average of 26,000 new cases per day. This is not good news, folks. A new study is showing that children are playing a much larger role in spreading the virus than previously thought. Again, not good news. The US has reported over 1,300 new deaths for the second consecutive day. Folks, this virus is nowhere near being under control. And I am so thankful that we wised up before September the 1st, which would have been just a couple days away, and thinking that we could somehow manage even a phased reopening when the entire world is going through what appears to be a re-emergence of this virus. And meantime, in the US, they're still doing the most ridiculous things possible. Like AMC has just announced that they have opened 100 theaters across the US. Why? Why? Sit home and watch your movies. But everybody's like, we need to reopen for the economy. We get it. But when you're in the middle of a crisis like this, reopening for the sake of the economy is going to have the opposite effect. Because you're going to be infecting more people. You're going to have to shut right back down. Now you spread the virus even more instead of trying to contain it. ICU beds, out of stock, et cetera, et cetera. It's just crazy. So let's look at the European situation, because the European situation is very, very interesting in light of the fact that the European Union in particular, good morning, Elizabeth, were of the opinion that not letting the Americans in, that not letting the Americans in would somehow be their saving grace. And it turns out not so much so, apparently. The World Health Organization Regional Director for Europe, Dr. Hans Kluge, said at a press conference today's Thursday, yes, that although the region has made phenomenal efforts to contain the novel coronavirus after becoming the epicenter for the pandemic early in the year, authorities have been easing some of the restrictions and people have been dropping their guard, because this is what happens when you ease the restrictions, folks. It's just human nature. Like, I'm not going to castigate anyone because it's human nature. This is what we do. So this is why we jump in a pool with hundreds and possibly thousands of people, not even knowing who's infected, as we saw in the photo that we shared yesterday. People just want to get back to normal. We want to push the kids off to school. Hurry up and take them. I get it. I get that every single parent during this pandemic was so glad when a daycare reopened and now that school's reopening, like, oh Lord, I can get a bit of a break. Because most of us are not educators. We're not equipped to manage our kids 24/7. And it takes a toll on us and our stress levels and our mental health. However, new clusters in European countries, localized settings such as long-term care homes, which we know is always an issue, food production facilities, and travelers, folks. So Spain opens up. The first thing that happens when Spain opens up, is people from the UK start running on vacations. My husband's aunt, who lives in the UK, said vacations were like, airplane tickets were like 30 something pounds one way or whatever. Super cheap to try to bring in that tourism dollar. And so everyone jumps on that opportunity And as a result, what happens? Yikes. Reinfections reemerge. So let's have a look then, folks, at what we're talking about here when we say reinfections reemerge. And the dangers of this, even for Cayman. So, Foster's. I don't know if you know this or not, but Foster's Food Fair sometimes interrupted and sometimes just redirected from somewhere else. So you can't get the products that you are normally used to. And that shouldn't come as a surprise because you remember during the height of COVID, we had Foster's managing director, Woody Foster, on the program. And Woody was talking about this very thing. So I'm going to see if I can pull up this video and share it with you guys that Foster's has shared on their page. But this is one of the realities that we are having to deal with. You know, but thank God we're still able to get most of the products, even if it's not the exact brand that we want, that we've come accustomed to. We are still able to eat with relative ease and few interruptions in our direct supply of food. Clorox wipes. There's a worldwide shortage of Clorox wipes until 2021 at least. And that depends on how this pandemic, you know, falls out or plays out, I should say. So Europe is seeing a reemergence. They had a virtual meeting with the World Health Organization's regional office. Oh, sorry, they're planning on having a virtual meeting with its 53 member nations in Europe at the end of the month to discuss how schools around the region can reopen safely. So it looks like in Europe, their reopening date is for schools is not right now as it is here. So the new study that's talking about kids playing a key role in the community spread of this is a study that was published on Thursday in the Journal of Pediatrics. So I do want you guys to check this out. I think we had actually published this or made mention of it on the article that we did about the wearing of masks petition a couple days ago. So check it out, folks. Knowledge is power. So Deborah, you should have the link now to that video. Good morning, Odette. Larry, good morning. Linda says, you are wrong. Don't take Cayman in the wrong direction. Tests in the US have tested positive when they are not. Your medical opinion isn't needed. To the children of Cayman, stick with your robberies and accidents. That's funny, Linda. Linda claims that numbers are fictitious in the US. Oh, I bet Linda's probably a Trump supporter too. And everywhere else. So the state and or country could get free money. The H1N1 flu has killed more than this flu. Well, first of all, Linda, It's not a flu. Oh my God. The level of ignorance that we have to, on a constant basis, address is amazing. So Linda, by now, if you don't even understand that this is not a flu, should you really be opening your mouth on this topic at all? It's not a flu. And it has killed, and it will kill. And it is on par to kill more people than the 1918 pandemic. And that was a flu, by the way, but this is not a flu. Get your facts, Linda, and don't come at CMR talking about we must stick to reporting robberies and accidents. Don't pull out the bitch in me this morning, honey. I have done more research on this and read more science-based reports and studies and articles than you have probably read in the past 10 years of your life, because you seem to be conspiracy theorists that will believe any kind of bullshit that is thrown at you. So, whilst we're open to all different sorts of opinions on this show, I would recommend, Linda, that you fact check yourself and you try to educate yourself. Don't question my level of information on this and my intelligence. And by the way, throw the entire scientific community under the bus. Listen to Linda's logic. Let's break down what Linda has said. Because, you know, there are times when you got to call a bullshit artist straight up. Linda claims that this is all a big conspiracy for countries to get free money. Where's the free money coming from? What country do you see that has benefited from this virus at all? Free money? Do you understand the economic impact of COVID-19? The millions of people in the US that are out of jobs. You think the US has free money? They are digging themselves into trillions of dollars worth of debt. That is why the Senate didn't want to pass that bill and why Trump had to exercise executive powers. Because giving someone free money, as you call it, oh, we're going to now give everyone a $600 a month. That ain't free money, honey. You will all pay for it as Americans. Your economy is in a slump, the worst since the Great Depression. What are you talking about? This is not something that helps people. Educate yourselves. And it's unfortunate if you actually live here in the Cayman Islands that you would be spewing this kind of information, because it's just ridiculous, to be honest. Folks, the numbers are there. The economic impact is there. The millions of people filing for unemployment is there. If you think that any government has free money to give out, you better wake the hell up. That's why right here in the Cayman Islands, you know what they're talking about? The possibility of a tax. That's how free it is, Linda. They're going to tax your asses here soon. And then you're going to be running from the Cayman Islands complaining about, oh, I thought they were supposed to be tax-free. Well, you can't be tax-free when your government is giving away free money, because it ain't free. The economic impact of this is significant. People, don't fall for this stupidity and this ignorant dialogue about anyone getting freeness. The only people that have gained from this pandemic, I gotta be honest with you, is Amazon, because none of us can't shop anywhere else. You're afraid to go anywhere else. So yes, there will be one or two companies, but look at the number of retail businesses alone that have shut down. So when you talk about fictitious numbers, let's look at this. Let's talk about the economic impact. I know we haven't gotten into a whole lot of tech-related stuff. Over 50 million people in the US unemployed. As a matter of fact, that's dated. Let me find something a little bit more up to date. So you talk about the economic crises Again, the data is available, folks. You can find this information. I'll share the links below because I have nothing to gain from any sort of misinformation. Cayman, keep your borders closed. If you listen to people like Linda, when the infection hits and when we have an outbreak of this, she'll be the first one trying to run to some other small Caribbean nation who will open your borders. Let's see here. Recession. Predicted for the next 2 years. Well, the 172-page article called The Next Normal, The Recovery Will Be Digital. Check that out, folks. You can download it and read it for free. This is information that you need to be reading about the true impact of this. Go to McKinsey.com. This is a business website. And they will give you all of the raw data on what is happening. You get a full report. You can read articles, implications for business because of COVID-19. Allow me to share the link, folks. Nobody needs to spread any fake information and make that stuff up. There's the links. Linda, try reading. It's important to educate yourself. I'm sure you think you know it all because I'm sure you're a wealthy person who's run and operated your own successful businesses and you've run world economies, so nobody can't tell you anything. The Carsey School of the Carsey School of Public Policy out of the University of New Hampshire. They also have a breakdown of state by state of what is happening to the economy around the US in particular. The state with the smallest drop in employment has been Utah with 4.5%. The widespread job loss increase of 4.8 million jobs from May to June. However, the increase still left the country down 14.7 million payroll jobs. That's 9.6% of the pre-recession total. Unemployment insurance claims continue at a highly elevated rate. People don't make this stuff up, folks. The decline is obvious. There are people who don't know where their next meals are coming from. So while you're talking about people getting free money, you need to go and talk to some of those people about the far-reaching economic consequences of the coronavirus. Anyone who believes that this virus was made up to benefit others and to benefit a country and so people can get free money, I want you to tell me, number one, where are they getting the free money from? Because clearly, as the Cayman Islands, we need to sign up. And how is this benefiting anyone? You've run out of PPE equipment. All of your ICU beds are gone. You've got entire states that are on the verge of economic collapse. You want to see those things for Cayman? Then listen to somebody like Linda, folks. Open the borders, let them all back in. That's the solution. Deborah says the furlough pay given in the UK is tax returns. The world over, Sue, is in a recession. We will be feeling the implications of that as well. Unbelievable. that this is the rhetoric that people are still, here we are in August now, this is the rhetoric that people are still engaging in. So this Linda account is probably a fake account. I mean, I can't imagine she's got too much sense. But look at her profile picture. It's Trump giving people the fingers and says, F your feelings, 4 more years. She posted that 3 days ago. Well, Linda, we're going to tell you to F your fake news and your fake information. So sad. Ugh. Poor Linda. What a hot mess. Anyway, good luck with that, Linda. Keyman, stay the course. For Tech Thursday, let me tell you what was on the agenda. A couple things I want to mention just by way of information. So have you guys noticed that with WhatsApp, you now have a messenger room? Did anybody notice that this week? So let me pull it up on the screen so I can show you guys what it looks like. So I know I told you guys about the desktop version of Messenger, and on your phones, it is under, hold on, I saw it yesterday. It's when you go into Messenger. So you go into an actual chat conversation and you do the little plus sign on the iPhone. I think it's similar in Android, where you would add like a photo, you can send a document, you can send your location or forward a contact. The very top one there now says room. And so you can create these messenger rooms. Let me show you what it looks like on the desktop version. So give me 1 second here and I'm going to pull this up. So this is now Messenger Rooms. I'm being told it's also available on IG. So I've not looked at the IG app, but that makes sense because we know that WhatsApp is now, it's now owned by Facebook. So how does this work? So this was just launched here. So now it came out in WhatsApp desktop version. So the Messenger Room is a multi-participant video call option. We've seen it come out recently on Facebook. That's their other platform. And it's intended for you to be able to add multiple people to a video call. So you create a room and then you're able to add all different people for video calls. So isn't this pretty cool? So this is nice, video chats. So now it's rolled out on the desktop version of WhatsApp and it's on the call version as well. Now, I understand that you can do up to 50 contacts at a time. This is pretty cool. I have not yet tried it out, but any of you want to volunteer, shoot me a WhatsApp message and let's check it out. Let's see how it works. So basically what happens is the Messenger Room shortcut within WhatsApp is going to switch you to the Messenger app or the Messenger website in your mobile or web browser. I understand that you need to have a Facebook account to take advantage of a room outside of WhatsApp. So I'm not really sure. Well, it says that the WhatsApp video calls are actually end-to-end encrypted. So you start by creating the room. So here's how you do it. You open an individual chat, and then you go to attach room. And then in this case with iPhone now, you'd click on the plus. Or you can open a group chat or group chat that has 5 or more participants and tap group call icon and then create a room. And then it tells you that you'll continue in Messenger. And that takes you out of WhatsApp and through to the Messenger app or website. So this is kind of interesting. And if you receive an invitation to join a room, you can do so by tapping on the link and open it up in your browser or Messenger app. So I think we need to test this out because it looks like it takes you out of WhatsApp, although they claim that it's still end-to-end encryption. So I'm curious to see how that works. But yeah, that's where it shows up on the bar there on the right. This is a desktop version that you see on your screen. And then you just say continue in Messenger, and then you're able to create your room. So that's our Tech Thursday suggestion for this week. I want you guys to check that out. Let me know how you find it. Next week, we can certainly continue our Tech Thursday discussion. The other good thing is a lot of people, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, are trying to figure out how to deliver content in a more reasonable and meaningful way. So, you know, companies like Spotify is now looking at getting into the audiobook business. Now, listen, if you've never listened to Spotify's music, right? But if you've never listened to an audiobook, I love audiobooks because sometimes you don't want to crack open a book and read. But the audiobook equivalent, you can just sit there and listen to it. You can listen in your car. You can download audiobooks on your phone. Amazon offers audiobooks. Remember Audible? Amazon bought out and acquired Audible. So I actually I have a monthly subscription with Audible. So I can purchase just about any Amazon or any audiobook that I want. And you would be surprised the number of books that come in an Audible format. Now, why is this taking me to the German version of audiobooks? I want English, please. So yes, for some reason, when I click on Audibles, it's bringing me to the German site, which obviously we're not in Germany, but it must be something why it's thinking our IP address. I just had to redirect myself to audible.com. So millions of books, fiction, nonfiction, self-help books, kids books, everything. You can listen on your Kindle devices. If you've got an Apple or these smartphones, you can download the Kindle and Audible apps through those. So I get an audiobook per month, and then they roll over any credits that you don't use. And for example, there's Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. There's one by Mary Trump, Where the Crawdads Sing. There's all sorts of fiction, nonfiction, sci-fi. Lots of beautiful options. So I am an Audible member. And I haven't listened to a good audiobook in a while, to be honest. Sometimes you get busy, so busy that you don't even get to listen to books. But yeah, you can go and check out. You can play them on your like if you have any of these link to your Audible account. So you can say, Alexa, read my book to me. And as you're sitting down, Alexa can read it to you. So beautiful advances in technology. Like I said, Spotify is trying to get into the audiobook market now. But check it out, folks. Well worth it. And it's always telling me when I log in to my Amazon account, you've got a credit that you need to use. I think you can gift. I'm trying to remember if this is correct or not. But I do believe that you can actually gift people an audiobook. Like you can send people regular books on Amazon. Like you can purchase a book and send it to somebody else for them to read. And I'm pretty sure that Audible is the exact same way as well. So you've got romance, best sellers, the works. So I currently have, I'm a gold monthly member and I have 12 credits that I should be using up soon. So you get a credit a month. So in other words, I haven't really ordered anything in a while. And your credits do expire after a certain amount of time. So I think I will be ordering some books here shortly. But the library is amazing. So you can browse whatever category you want, folks. The best of 2020, Audible Latino, religion and spirituality, arts and entertainment. All sorts of amazing content to be had. Don't you just love modern technology? So Maria says that she's trying to live as normal as she can, but she's being responsible, which is in everyone's best interest. So I think the Minister of Education does need to clarify a few things because we saw, let me just show you guys something here. An email from the education, not an email, sorry, it's a post that someone said that was, you know, when they say something is clear as mud. So in other words, it's not clear at all. So let me just pull this up for you. The Minister of Education, the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Conley, has made it clear that teachers and students are required to wear masks once school reopens. However, not in class when the students are working at their desk. Say what? That doesn't make any sense. That's not what has been said before. So that is very confusing. So we need some clarification, I think, on this policy with that sort of thing being circulated. We were told once they are inside in the classroom, they would be wearing masks. So not quite getting why they wouldn't be wearing masks inside now. It's all confusing. Don't be confused, folks. Linda, don't be confused. Get your information as accurately as possible. Yeah? We're going to clarify this with the minister. Someone said, when is there sense from that minister? Well, Debbie, they need to make sure that there's clarity for kids returning and parents to understand precisely what is going on. Nobody likes misinformation. Okay, we wish you all the best. Today is Thursday. We do have an evening segment at 7 p.m. So tune back in for that. We will try to get some clarification on this before this evening, if possible. If we find out, like I said, that comment, which is posted on social media, is clear as mud. So in other words, it is not clear at all. I have no clue what that means. So allow me to try to get it from the source, because the people need to understand precisely what is going on, right? Folks, have a gorgeous day. Work hard, play hard, I guess. If you're on staycation and you're playing, enjoy yourselves, and we'll be back here at 7 o'clock this evening. And that's all I've got for you. Mini tech segment, Mini Tech Thursday. We ran out of time. I do have some persons reaching out about issues in relation to NAU still. A single mom reached out yesterday to say that she's having some issues. We're going to try to find out what her story is and what's going on, and we'll revert back to you guys with some of those details. NAU seems like they still are struggling to get it together. When people talk about free money, I'm like, even NAU, it ain't free, because we all got to pay for that. But not only is it not free, but even the people who are getting it are put through quite a bit in order to get those funds. And oftentimes it seems like the people most in need are the ones who are going to be put through the most. Stay tuned, folks. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you later on this evening.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.